It hasn't been a great year for the President of the United States. The 81-year-old has made so many gaffes and public blunders, he was forced to suspend his campaign for re-election just 3 weeks after the first presidential debate in June.
Able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
Sadly, 2024 has been the year he's earned the reputation of getting world leaders confused.
And now I want to hand it over to the President of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway.
And that was not a one-off for the sitting president.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate.
In July, it was announced that Kamala Harris would be the presumptive Democrat nominee, and she's been campaigning hard ever since. Although she's distanced herself from Joe Biden as polling day nears, that hasn't stopped Biden from causing her campaign headaches.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Just days after labelling millions of Americans garbage, he caused more political pain by seeming to advocate for violence against Republicans.
Now, I know some of you guys are tempted to think it's macho guy. I'll tell you what, man, but I'm serious. These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
In a race that's between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, it was Joe Biden who managed to steal the headlines for all the wrong reasons just 48 hours from polling day. The Sunday Showdown has your breakdown of how Biden's latest gaffe has impacted the campaign and how it could impact the election result this week.
Well, I can believe that Joe Biden would say something like those comments he made this week because he is not completely compos mentis. But Harris has had a hard enough time of it as it is over the last few weeks. The wind has really disappeared from her sails, and trying to get things back on track in the lead up to election day, in comes the old boss. He drops the bomb, and that's what everyone talked about all week. It took all the attention away from anything else that she might have tried to sell. The only thing anyone wanted to talk about was Biden.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, sometimes the mask slips off and they accidentally show us what they really think of us. And, you know, Biden did that. I think that, you know, he does think very little of a lot of everyday Americans. And I think Trump said it perfectly. And I think he stated this after that Biden comment, which was that, you know, you can't lead America if you don't like Americans. And I think that that's the problem that the Democratic Party have, is apart from their very hardcore left-wing echo chamber and the emotional voting that you're seeing from the women sort of pushing for Kamala Harris, apart from that, everyday Americans don't resonate with that party anymore. And I think that they're speaking another language and the Americans aren't really buying it. But, you know, I think that objectively, Trump is the most popular politician of like my lifetime in terms of even on the worldwide sort of scale, like, you know, not America, but like on the across the whole world. And, you know, I think they're trying to convince people that perhaps Kamala Harris is actually the most popular. But, you know, apart from P. Diddy's like pals, she can't really get anyone attending her concerts, her things. I mean, you see that video clip where Beyonce came and you know, people came to think that they were seeing a Beyonce concert, and when she gave a speech about the election, they started bailing and leaving. I think that shows us the position that the Dems are in. And, you know, like Biden, he let the mask slip off. He let them know what the Dems really think of them. And gosh, I agree with you. I just want to see Trump just own the media, just own the libtards or whatever you call them. You know, that thing how they've got all of the liberal people who come on and just basically are irrational and illogical, and most people frown and like freak out. But he's a politician who's like, I don't care what people think. I'm going to be politically incorrect. I'm going to say this. And I think people are just wanting a dose of just normality and none of this fake political stuff.
Biden did it deliberately.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this to sabotage the woman who took his job?
You look at the occasion. She was at the Ellipse, which is that big road in front of the White House, and there she was on the platform. This is the big closing call. And where was Joe? Was he sitting there? Was he an honoured guest? No. He'd been left back in the cupboard in the White House.
He had a MAGA hat
Joe
under the table.
and Dr. Jill Biden put their heads together and they said, we want the record of history to show, Joe, you're the only politician who beat Trump. I can fix that, he said. Did the Zoom call, dropped the garbage bomb, and that was the October surprise.
Well, while we're talking about Biden, I mean, the garbage thing was bad enough, but it wasn't enough for him to end there. He spoke at a campaign event in Pennsylvania and came out with this ripper.
There's one more thing Trump and his Republican friends want to do. They want another giant tax cut for the wealthy. Now, I know some of you guys are tempted to think it's macho guys. I'll tell you what, man. When I was in Scranton, we used to have a little trouble going down the plot once in a while from Green Ridge. But I'm serious. These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
Now, look, I know Joe Biden has some weird interests. He likes to nibble on kids, Joe. He likes to sniff people's hair. But now he wants to smack Trump's ass. What's going on there?
I don't know. Maybe that tough guy from the swimming pool, is it Cool Pop?
Corn Pop.
Maybe
he was a bad dude.
He was a bad dude. He needs to call in Corn Pop to teach these macho guys a lesson. Look, I admire Kel's generous optimism that Joe Biden is capable of doing anything deliberately. But no, I think this has been the most catastrophic, incompetent campaign.
So as bad as the Voice campaign.
From the Democrats. I think that's probably fair, that I've ever seen. It is just absolutely staggering. I think, in a sense, the Voice campaign, the excuse they use, well, you have to forgive all these people who have been calling people racist or doing gaffes or not targeting things, but because they're not really campaigners. I'm just like, why are they in the campaign then? Anyway, that's another story. But the Democrats are meant to be this kind of really slick, cool, top-level political machine, right? And they're the biggest political machine in the greatest and oldest, in real terms, modern democracy, and they have just screwed the pooch. This has all been theirs to lose, and they have lost it. And at every single juncture where there was a fork in the road, where they could have, could have gone to a bright green field full of daffodils or the dark, spooky path with crocodiles, they choose these are fools. Never forget, Trump was completely and utterly washed up. He was persona non grata. Even Mike Pence had turned on him in the aftermath of the January 6 riots. It was completely shattered. There was the big Republican red wave that was predicted. It never came. Trump goes ahead with his re-announcement of his candidacy for the presidency as though the red wave actually had happened. It was embarrassing. It was rambling. People were trying to get out, like the same people who thought they were going to hear Beyonce sing. And what do? They prosecute him. They give him a reason to fight. They give him a platform to stand on, right? So the first thing, that's right. Then you've got Joe Biden, who is clearly incoherent, clearly not functioning, not in control of his faculties, as we have just seen. And instead of actually having the courage and the foresight to say, all right, Joe, you're not running again. The machine will not back you. Thanks very much. Thanks for your service. But that's not happening. No one had the balls to do it, to the point where they could only do it once it was too late. And then when they realised they had to do it because people like Obama and Clooney and high-powered people were coming out publicly because they couldn't actually get any traction, couldn't be heard within the machine. They had to come out publicly and do it. Then his position becomes untenable. By then, the hundreds of millions of bucks in donation have rolled in. They can't change to a candidate who could actually beat Donald Trump. Like, for example, I don't know, Michelle Obama. So they have to go for the one person who is the worst performing. Never forget, this is someone who was booted out of the first presidential primary she contested after the very first debate because she performed so appallingly.
The most unpopular vice president in history.
Unpopular vice president in history.
Yeah.
And they have
effed all of this up and effed all their options so much that they have to give it to her. And even then she still gets a rails run. Even then she's got all the Kamala momentum.
Let's not forget.
She screws everything over by not being able to answer basic
I know.
questions.
I'll
it's
come,
amazing.